Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Get inspired and live out loud. From love, freedom, and success to having it all. Here's your host, coach, speaker, and shining star, Orion.
Roger, you're looking good.
The year is 2021. Humanity, we the collective, are experiencing a global shift and major uncertainty. Many changes have already happened within the fabric of our society, in our governments, and there are many more to come. In times like these, you must stay more centered, more connected, more loving. Follow your intuition as your northern star. Take charge of your mindset regardless of external situations. This year, I'm going to be posting special episodes called Stellar Experiences. In these episodes, I and some of my favorite guests are going to take you through a variety of exercises and guided meditations that will give you a stronger experience of self, calmness, and inner joy. Please do not listen to these episodes while you are driving or working. Find a quiet place, relax, and give yourself the gift of self-discovery. Welcome to your stellar experience. Hello and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast, and I hope this beautiful stellar experience is going to rock your world. Today we have with us Dr. Frances Yahia, and she is talking about how to integrate your own shadows through your partner, using your partner as a mirror and going deep into your own childhood and your own wounding and healing that within yourself so your relationship is going to feel whole with yourself and with your partner. And for this experience, you'll need a pen and paper and maybe play some focus music in the background, some calming meditation music in the background, and put an intention to have this be a phenomenal experience for you. And now, without further ado, on to your experience.
2, 1, 0.
Hello, listeners. This is Dr. Frances Yahia, and I'd like to share a little bit about my new book, The Truth is in the Triangle. So my first book was The 7 Gates, 7 Steps Beyond Self-Awareness. And the basis of that model, which is to heal subconscious trauma, is to understand that every person, place, thing, or situation is representative of your mother and your father. In my new book, The Truth is in the Triangle, I want you to find out if your partner is your mother or your father. So first, let me tell you a little bit about the model and how you can incorporate it into your own life. First, the belief is that everything is a system, and you and your partner are a system. Every system has an origin story, which is what I ask clients: how do couples meet? The way that you met is sort of the fantasy, or each other recognizing the discarded parts in each other and trying to integrate those shadow parts or discarded parts. And then I ask clients about their first fight. The first fight tells me the thread that you come to work through in your relationship. Every 5 to 7 years, we get an opportunity to renegotiate the rules and rebuild on a new origin story. So I'd like to tell you about a concept that I write about that comes from mythology called the Heros Gamos. And the Heros Gamos means mystical marriage. My first book, The 7 Gates, was how to get the mystical marriage with self. My new book, The Truth is in the Triangle, is how to get that mystical marriage with your partner. So I'd like for you to draw 2 circles, overlapping circles. Put the letter I in one of them, the other letter I in the other, and in the middle circle, draw a we, or write we. The Heros Gamos is the model that I talk about in this book called the I, and the we. So it's the mystical marriage to self, how you marry yourself and become perfectly aligned in your masculine and feminine energies, permitting your partner to also be aligned in his or her masculine and feminine energies, where both people have their own set of rules. In my first book, I have the rule book as step 6. These are the non-negotiables of the relationship, the boundaries. The we will then be created from that, where the relationship itself is a different entity and will have its own rules. And we're going to talk about something called the Threadmate in a moment. So let me just go back to the rules of relationships. Everything is a system. And basically, your partner is your parent. And if you look at the word partner and parent, they're the same word with the exception of a letter R, and R is for redo. What you're trying to do is redo your parents' relationship through your own relationship. You have an origin story, how you met. This tells of the fantasy or what you're trying to work through in this relationship. And your first fight tells of the conflict of what you're trying to heal in your subconscious through your relationship. So I like to talk about something called the Threadmate. In New Age circles, we hear a lot about soulmate, which I don't disagree with the concept, but I think that soulmate carries an energy that there's only one person for us, or there's only one right way to do relationship, and I disagree with that. The Threadmate, however, is what you come to do with this particular partner. So is it to build an empire? Is it to build a family? Is it for a sexual relationship? That's the first thing you want to identify is your Threadmate. That's going to go in the we circle. That's why you're together. And then all of your behaviors, all of your rules, everything that you work towards with the couple is to build this thread. So we get off focus oftentimes when things happen in our relationship. But if we go back to the center circle and get recentered as to our thread and our Threadmate, then we understand that things show up to kind of distract us and to get off our path with this particular partner. If this particular relationship is a sexual relationship, then your thread and your we and your rules and your non-negotiables are related to sexuality. If it's about building a business, then it's about building a business. So we don't get sidetracked and unfocused on other things. I also want to talk to you about the mistress. Every relationship has a mistress. If you will, draw a triangle, and it'll do a little soul searching where you have to find your wrong alliance. Your mother and your father, or the representative, if it was a grandmother, if you were adopted, if your parents passed away, whoever you have an alliance with is a wrong alliance. The right way that the kingdom should be mother and father at the base of the triangle and the child at the tip. But as I mentioned in my first book, The Seven Gates, we all have a wrong alliance with one parent. And therefore, we need to identify, because that's the person that we're going to continue dating or marrying in our relationships. So when you identify your wrong alliance, for instance, mine was with my father, you put that at the base of the triangle. So you would put child or your name, and you would put mother or father at the base of the triangle, leaving the other parent that I call the mistress at the tip of the triangle. Hence, my podcast is called The Mistress of the Subconscious. We all have a mistress in our relationship. It may be another man or woman. It might be work. It might be the car. It might be the alarm clock. It might be money. It might be a child. But every single person comes from a triangle, from a triad. And you have a shift in the triangle because nobody comes from a healthy triad. Your parents birthed you so that you could meet their needs, not the other way around. Your parents did not meet your needs. Your parents did not love you unconditionally, meaning that you now go into the world looking for a partner that will meet your needs, and you try to get them to love you unconditionally, which will never happen. Hence the Hieroskamos, which is the mystical marriage with self. When you learn how to love yourself, when you learn how to be the person that meets your own needs, you no longer have to put that stress and burden on the relationship. Now, you can do this backwards, so to speak. You can get into couple, learn to love yourself, and then heal the relationship as a result. Or you can do my first book, The Seven Gates Model, learn to have the mystical marriage with self, and then go into the world seeking a partner at your same vibrational level. So you could do it either way. For people that have been together for many, many years, you're going to do this process every 5 to 7 years, what I call the snow globe. That origin story is going to get reevaluated or renegotiated. You're going to start the cycle over. And this is a healthy way to go through life, not only with yourself, Every 7 years, what I call the skinny cows, is a time for you to reevaluate and renegotiate your values throughout your entire life. That's the spiritual journey, but you can do the same thing with your relationship. So at your triangle, how do you identify who you have the wrong alliance with? The way that I find most simplest. One of your parents had a covert power. They might have been more manipulative. They might have been more backdoor. They might have been sort of the neck versus one being the head. Maybe they were less verbal. They were more quiet in their demeanor. And one had the overt power. Maybe they had the money, the power, the job, the stamina in the relationship. Maybe they were the one that were conflictive. They were the one that spoke up. They were the ones that yelled. They were more overt. You identified that one version of that power currency was more powerful. There's no right or wrong. In essence, your parents are the exact same person. They're just a shadow of one another. So personally, I chose my father, who had the overt power, and I show up in my relationships more masculine in nature and in the overt power relationship. So my wrong alliance is with my father. So at the tip of the triangle, the mistress is my mother. So if that's your case, you could put your father as the wrong alliance next to the father yourself and your mother as the mistress at the top of the triangle. The mistress, whether it's your mother or father or an actual male or female or the car or the job or the gambling or the drinking, informs the relationship. Both people in the relationship need something from that mistress. So if that mistress gives you attention, a real person, a third person in your marriage, that means that you have to give yourself attention, your partner has to give themselves attention, and then what the couple has to give each other is attention. If it's gambling, if it's an escape, for instance, gambling is a poor coping. It's a form of escape, just like alcohol. That means that each partner needs to escape in some way, maybe be more childlike. And then perhaps what they give each other is some escape or fantasy in the bedroom. So we use the mistress to inform what each person needs to get to their mystical marriage, their hieros in themselves, and in addition with what they need to get to the mystical marriage, or the I and the we in the relationship. So mistresses are not bad. They're informative. Now, going back to the wrong and right alliance. Your wrong alliance was with one of the parents. The parent that you kicked out, so to speak, that you put at the tip of the triangle, is what you discard in yourself. This is called the shadow aspect. That parent has good and bad qualities. However, you basically took the baby and threw it out with the bathwater. I talk more about this in the bad buckets and good buckets in my first book, The 7 Gates. That's directly related to this work. If you want a free workbook, you can go on to dryahia.com, that's YAHIA.com, and download a free workbook under the link to the podcast. And that I explain the steps of the bad buckets, how to integrate your shadow. This book is about how to integrate the shadow through your partner. It's similar work, but using your partner as a mirror, because that's one of the rules in the rule book for this particular model. So when you identify the parent that you discarded, that you threw out, you need to identify what qualities that parent has that you threw out that you wanted to discard. So for instance, my mother was gentle, she was kind, she's elegant, she's beautiful, she's gracious. I threw all of those qualities out along with her manipulative sort of tendencies. And that's what we do. We discard everything instead of taking the good. And so this job of the mistress is to identify what parts of your parents you threw out that are your shadow aspects so that you can bring them back in, become whole, become an integrated person. And then the next step is what I call #do-it-differently, which is doing it different than your parents. The child, the inner child or the psyche does not know how to do it differently. It does the opposite. So the parent you kick out is the one that you do the opposite of. The one that you integrate or the one that's at the wrong alliance, you do it just the same. Neither way is healthy. You want to find what I call the 48 to 52, which is the midpoint of those two people. They have a little bit of good, a little bit of bad, and you are a combination of both. Thank you very much. For more resources, please visit my website, dryahia.com. My book, The 7 Gates, 7 Steps Beyond Self-Awareness, will teach you how to integrate your shadow and become a whole. My book, The Truth is in the Triangle, is the relationship model using the same principles to have what's called the mystical marriage with yourself and indeed your partner. And I also have a book called Witch Bitch, which is for ceremonies and rituals that help to shift the subconscious traumas so that we can grow up and live our whole life. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me on my mission to light people up and change lives around the world. I hope today's conversation inspires you to step up, go after the life of your dreams, and be who you want to be. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes, transcripts, and other cool stuff. And please subscribe, review, and help spread the word by sharing us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.